All right, we are live. Hello, Ryan. How's audio? How's video? How's the internet connection? Hello, Yankee. Welcome. Hello, Rick. Thank you. As usual, we'll just give it a couple minutes for people to come in. Hello, Julie. Welcome. Hello, Karuna. Hello, Maria. Welcome. My mind is torn as to whether you've been on a stream with us before or not. Is this your first time? I'm not sure. Maria, forward and backwards. Ah, okay. Well, welcome. Glad to have you with us for the big Maggasekha event of the week. And I think I will bring up the share screen and we'll work on getting started. All right. Ah, that's where I remember you then from Empty Cloud streams. I thought you looked familiar. Definitely. Okay. So let's get started. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sukho vivekatuttassa sutta dhammassa passato avyapajjang sukhang loke pana bhute susamyamo sukha viragata loke kanam kamanang samatikkamo asmimanassa yo vineo etang ve paramang sukhang sabbang paravassang dukkang sabbang issariyang sukhang sadharane vinyananti yoga hi doratikkamati arakatena kayena michaditti gatena cha tina midda vibhutena vasang marasa gacchati tasmarakita chittassa samma Sankappa gocharo sammaditi purekaro nyatvana uddaya bhayanyang tina midda vibhubiku sabbadugattiyo jaheti sora sukarang saduna sadhu sadhu papena dukarang papang papena sukarang papang ariyehi dukarang. All right, English. Blissful is detachment. Blissful is detachment for one who is content, for one who has learned Dhamma and who sees. Blissful is freedom from anger in the world, restraint toward living creatures. Blissful is passionlessness in the world, the overcoming of the sensual desires, but the abolishing of the conceit I am. That is truly the supreme bliss. All subjection to another is painful. Full mastery is bliss. Partners share in affliction. Bonds are difficult to overcome. Forsake bad destinations. With an unguarded body and encumbered by wrong views, overcome by lethargy and torpor, one goes along in the power of Mara. So let one's mind be guarded, let one's domain be right thought. By putting right view to the forefront, by understanding rise and fall, and overcoming lethargy and torpor, a bhikkhu will forsake all bad destinations. For the good to do what is good is easy. For the bad to do what is good is difficult. For the bad to do what is bad is easy. For the noble to do what is bad is difficult. All right, friends. Well, it is Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, and that means it is time for another Dhammapalooza, the Festival of Dhamma with the Maggasekha community. Dhammapalooza, as the name implied, is a event where the Maggasekha community comes together and engages in a variety of different Dhamma-related activities. We just did some chanting. Later on, we'll do some meditation. In between, who knows? Each Dhammapalooza is different because it is guided by the community. When I started Dhammapalooza stream, I only put Dhammapalooza in the date because we don't know what will it be. Will this be a Dhammapalooza where there's lots of questions? Will there be no questions and just sutta reading? We'll be playing some sutta roulette or word roulette. Who knows? So now is the time in the chat. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer related to Buddhism, meditation, monastics, you're free to put those questions in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or the community to discuss, please put those in the chat. And if nobody has anything, well, I always have a sutta in my back pocket, or we can play one of our sutta games. Welcome, Paulu. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but Rick has a question. Did the Buddha lay out the causes and conditions that lead us to remain discontented? I wonder what conditions are present that I do not see. I believe so. There might be a few suttas, but really the idea is that the causes and conditions for discontent is craving. It's the desire for more things. It's the desire for things to go the way you want it to be. There can be no contentment. There can be no equanimity when you are ruled by those desires. So this is a question of the second noble truth, the noble truth that of craving. That craving is the origin of our suffering. So the less you crave, the less you cling, the more contentment you have. That's very, very simple, basic. Nothing comes to mind in terms of any. There's just on the outskirts of my mind. There's some things kind of forming of possibilities where the Buddha lists various reasons for discontentment. Maybe for lay people. I'm trying to. It's not coming to mind, to be honest with you. But at its root, the reason for discontentment is craving, no equanimity. Bhante, if there's time, can you share a sutta on the joy of virtue? I will say one of coming up with random suttas on the spot is not one of my fortes. So this is, unless it's a pretty famous sutta or a sutta I know very well, especially on something like the joy of virtue. So I don't know any specific suttas, but what I will say is that the joy of virtue is that you are free of restlessness and remorse. Right? If you live a virtuous, good life, there is no regrets, no remorse, not worried about people getting back at you for things that you did, etc. That's the joy of virtue. And also, the joy of virtue is knowing that you do good deeds that will lead you to good places in the future. Right? There's no downside to virtue. There's no downside to good deeds. It's all good. This is why the Buddha always encourages us to develop our sila. So that's the main thing, as far as I can recall, of my understanding of the suttas. That the Buddha says the joy of virtue is freedom from restlessness and remorse, freedom from fear and worry. Right? The Buddha says of the 5 precepts that they are 5 faultless gifts to the world. That you give a gift of fearlessness to all beings when you follow the 5 precepts, and you also partake in that gift. So there's another aspect of the joy of virtue. What are some tips on staying mindful throughout the day? Practice, practice, practice mindset. Those are the tips. Practice, practice, practice. You develop the mindset that my meditation is at all times. As long as I'm awake, I can investigate, I can be mindful, I can practice at all times. that is something, you have to build that up. You have to develop that. It's like training a skill, building a habit of, I want to be mindful. And then after that, it's practice. I don't know if you've heard me talk about one of the common, very, very common, I've heard this from multiple monastics have suggested this. I've heard lay teachers suggest this. So this is a very, very common thing. And it is one of the things that I recall being very helpful for me developing my own mindfulness practice many years ago. And that is, I call it, what do I call it? Mindfulness in a minute or something like that. Bhante Rahula calls it M&Ms. Oh no, I call it 1 in 59. I think Bhante Rahula calls it mindfulness in a minute. But the idea is that as you're going throughout the day, when you're at work or whatever, the last minute of every hour, you can set an alarm on your phone or whatever, the last minute of every hour, whatever you're doing, as long as it's safe, you stop, pause, follow your breath, or bring your awareness, your focus, and your mindfulness to your body. And just take that break. Take that short amount of time to bring focus to this mind and body. And as you do that over time, you are training your mind to be aware and sharp and clear of what is happening. What is the state of your mind? Right? Is your mind full of greed? Not full of greed. Full of hatred? Not full of hatred. Full of delusion? Not full of delusion. Is it restless or sleepy, etc.? How is your body? You're feeling pain in the body, pleasure in the body, etc. So you observe, you develop the habit of being an investigator, observing what is happening in your mind and body. And then as you practice, as you develop that, a good chunk of your day, you will always be remembering to be mindful. You'll develop that. And even when you forget to be mindful, when you don't have sati, the definition of sati, most people say it's mindfulness, and that's true. But really, the definition of sati is recollection, to remember, to recall things. You have to remember to be mindful. You have to remember that you should be focusing and investigating this mind and body. And that ability to remember takes practice. You have to build that up as a habit in your life. And then you will be mindful throughout the day. Hello, Norma. Hello, Gregory. Welcome. Hello, Jayantha. Bhante, how to be comfortable with neutrality? In what context do you mean, Julie? Restlessness, unease, and boredom arise even though it can be peaceful at times. You mean like being comfortable with the mind just being equanimous? Yeah, neutrality is kind of usually, that word is usually put in like a kind of political or social aspect. I've not seen it used in terms of this. Okay. Well, you have to realize that you don't have control over your mind, right? Especially if you're not awakened. If you're awakened, then you have, some understanding. But a part of your mind is like, oh, this is peaceful, let's meditate, I like equanimity. And another part of your mind is like, hell no, this is horrible, this is boring, nothing is going on. Why don't we do something? This is the nature of the mind. There's a wonderful quote. I think it's Solzhenitsyn or maybe, or oh no, what was that Russian author from the 1800s? But the quote is in one of his books. It's something like, even if you were to put a person in a paradise and they had everything that they wanted, by the end of the day, they will have destroyed it all just to have something to do. Right? So it's like, yep, that's pretty much human nature, isn't it? That's the nature of the mind. Oh, I have everything I wanted. Okay, well, now I want something else. Or now I need some kind of stimulus. I need this, I need that, etc. One of the things that I found has been very helpful to me, this actually comes from the suttas. It comes from the reflection on when the mind is agitated. You don't like focus on the agitated part of the mind. You focus on when the mind becomes calm. And you really focus on that. This is actually very good. Like if in the meditation, right, you're sitting down to meditate and your mind is going, da, 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 but then all of a sudden, maybe even just for a few seconds, your mind goes quiet and you focus on that and you observe that. You investigate, like, oh, this is nice and peaceful. You know, when all this other stuff happens, there's agitation and yada, 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 etc. It's almost like you have to convince like all the aspects of your mind that this is a better way to be. This is actually, there's no downside to this, because the minute you become agitated, the minute you want to chase after something, etc., it's just more suffering. And when you do that, you know, this takes time, and when you do that, like the, you know, pretty your mind becomes unified in the way of like, you know, actually no, this is the best way to be. This is nice, at least for the time being. Maybe the part of your mind that wants to be, you know, bored, or, you know, is bored or whatever, distracted, will come and bother you later. But at least for that time being, you were able to kind of convince all the aspects of your mind that this is the best thing right now. This equanimity. And this is, in my opinion, and this, you see this in the suttas too, but in my opinion, the best happiness is an equanimous mind. If your mind is not equanimous, there is no happiness, real happiness. There is no actual peace, contentment, happiness when a mind, when a mind is not equanimous. That's just not how it works. Like when you really become wary of the suffering of your craving and agitation of the mind, you know, there's, when that arises, you're just like, you know what are the, how do I do the causes and conditions for this to cease? Because this is intolerable. This is unbearable. Developing and training your mind to be okay with lack of stimuli, and being and seeing the benefits of the mind being at rest is how you would do this. Norma says, duty to family, even though they exhibit repeated unwise decisions, extreme anxiety, fixed self-righteous views. I tremble at times. How to continue to care? Well, one of the things that you can do is reflect on these aspects, these qualities that kind of bring up some agitation and see them in you, right? Do you make unwise decisions repeatedly? Right? This is an important thing to kind of understand the other person. And you see, well, especially to make sure you don't fall into like agitation towards them, or looking down towards them, or whatever. The other aspect of is, yeah, duty to family is important, but also there is a duty of protecting yourself. Right? The Buddha says one should not sacrifice one's own welfare for the sake of another, no matter how great the need. On the other hand, the Buddha says that you can never repay your parents. Right? So there's a balance there. On the other hand, we're getting Shiva hands going here. The other hand, what does the Buddha say? Don't hang around with foolish people. So there's a balance to be struck of the amount of engagement you have with family and how you engage with family in a way that's beneficial to yourself and your family members. It's perfectly fine to think about your own, to make sure that you are also taken care of in this situation. And you also have to reflect that people are the owners of their actions. They have their own karma. Right? They have their own. They are their own being in samsara. They have their own karma. And sometimes you just have to let that go. Let it go and protect yourself. All right. Well, Rick is asking about 2 suttas. Since I don't see any other questions and they are Anguttara Nikayas, I think we can maybe go over them. The first 2 suttas in the Book of 11. Let's share screen. What's the purpose? So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove in Anathapindika's monastery. Then Venerable Ananda went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to him, "Sir, what is the purpose and benefit of skillful ethics?" Kusalani silani, skillful virtue. Good. All right. Ananda, having no regrets is the purpose and benefit of skillful ethics. There you go. You made your own answer, Rick. You found the sutta that collaborates what I was saying. Having no regrets is the purpose and benefit of skillful ethics. But what is the purpose and benefit of having no regrets? Joy is the purpose and benefit of having no regrets. What is the purpose of joy? And this is sutta is also explaining how having no remorse and regret, which is one of the hindrances, is a prerequisite for being able to go into deeper states of samadhi. These are all qualities of jhana, actually. What is the purpose of benefit of joy? Rapture. What is the purpose of benefit of rapture? Tranquility. What is the purpose and benefit of tranquility? Bliss. But what is the purpose and benefit of bliss? Samadhi. But what is the purpose and benefit of immersion? Truly knowing and seeing. Yatta Buddha Jnana Dasan. But what is the purpose and benefit of truly knowing and seeing? Disillusionment, nibbida. Disenchantment is another way it's translated. What is the purpose and benefit of disenchantment? Dispassion. What is the purpose and benefit of dispassion? Knowledge and vision of freedom is the purpose and benefit of dispassion. So, Ananda, the purpose and benefit of skillful ethics is not having regrets. Joy is the purpose and benefit of not having regrets. Rapture is the purpose and benefit of joy. Tranquility is the purpose and benefit of rapture. Bliss is the purpose and benefit of tranquility. Immersion is the purpose and benefit of bliss. Truly knowing and seeing is the purpose and benefit of immersion. Disillusionment is the purpose and benefit of truly knowing and seeing. Dispassion is the purpose and benefit of disillusionment. And knowledge and vision of freedom is the purpose and benefit of dispassion. So, Ananda, skillful ethics progressively leads up to the highest. 11.2. Mendicants, an ethical person who has fulfilled ethical conduct need not make the wish, may I have no regrets. It's only natural that an ethical person has no regrets. And so we see in many other suttas where the Buddha says, this cannot be had by wishing. Right? There's no such, in Buddhism, there's no such thing as something magically happening. That's not how things work. You can't nothing can happen by wishing. And here, the Buddha is taking the opposite tact of, well, if you're already an ethical person, you don't have to make the wish, may I have no regrets. You have done the causes and conditions that lead to no regrets. It is only natural that an ethical person has no regrets, right? Because they have done the causes and conditions. They have created the causes and conditions for no regrets. When you have no regrets, you need not make the wish, may I feel joy. It's only natural that joy springs up when you have no regrets. When you feel joy, you need not make the wish, may I experience rapture. It's only natural that rapture arises when you're joyful. When your mind is full of rapture, you need not make the wish, may my body become tranquil. It's only natural that your body becomes tranquil when your mind is full of rapture. When your body is tranquil, you need not make the wish, may I feel bliss. It's only natural to feel bliss when your body is tranquil. When you feel bliss, you need not make the wish, may my mind be immersed in samadhi. It's only natural for the mind to become immersed in samadhi when you feel bliss. Now, this is interesting the way Bhante Sujato, it says it's only natural. And I guess you could say, because it's Dhamma, right? So it's like, it is of the nature, right? It is only, it is by the nature of existence. When you have this, you will have that. This is like a, dependent origination, or in a way, like when the arising of this comes the arising of that. With the cessation of this comes the cessation of that. That's how things come to be, not by wishing. When your mind is immersed in samadhi, you need not make a wish. May I truly know and see. It's only natural to truly know and see when your mind is immersed in samadhi. When you truly know and see, you need not make the wish, may I grow disillusioned. It's only natural to grow disillusioned when you truly know and see. When you're disillusioned, you need not make the wish, may I become dispassionate. It's only natural to grow dispassionate when you're disillusioned. When you're dispassionate, you need not make the wish, may I realize the knowledge and vision of freedom. It's only natural to realize the knowledge and vision of freedom when you're dispassionate. And so, mendicants, the knowledge and vision of freedom is the purpose and benefit of dispassion. Dispassion is the purpose and benefit of disillusionment. Disillusionment is the purpose and benefit of truly knowing and seeing. Truly knowing and seeing is the purpose and benefit of immersion. Immersion is the purpose and benefit of bliss. Bliss is the purpose and benefit of tranquility. Tranquility is the purpose and benefit of rapture. Rapture is the purpose and benefit of joy. Joy is the purpose and benefit of not having regrets. Not having regrets is the purpose and benefit of skillful ethics. And so, mendicants, good qualities flow on and fill up from one to the other, for going from the near shore to the far shore. Very good. Let's see. Attempted guilt. I'm assuming that means that your parents have attempted to guilt you. That is of the nature of many parents, isn't it? I know all about that. It's the Italian Catholic, lots of guilt in growing up Italian Catholic, which is why I became very hardened to it. Very few people could ever guilt me into doing anything in life. Most especially those who seek to use my empathy and compassion for their own means. So that's a very good skill everybody should develop, of making sure that, now, if somebody points out something that you should feel guilty for, that's one thing, that's different. One should have guilt, right? One should have shame. One should be ashamed of doing bad things. One should have guilt. These are good things. However, they're good things with wisdom. I'm the kind of person, I'm a very agreeable person. I don't like conflict. And my mind, like somebody gets angry at me, I automatically feel guilty. And, it's only been in the last 10, 15 years that I was like, well, wait a second. Let me really question, should I feel guilty about this? And if not, then what do I feel guilty about? Just, because I feel uncomfortable or whatever. But I didn't do anything wrong. I should not feel guilty. So, you investigate these things. Don't just automatically accept or reject. Just investigate. Should I really feel guilty? Yes, it is a bumpy road. It's a very bumpy road. It's okay. Nobody does it perfect, then either. Sounds like you're doing your best. That's all you can do. It's interesting that regrets in this case only arise from direct actions and not necessarily omission from action. Is it saying, for instance, that if one neglects generosity, one would not feel regret? Yeah. Why you neglect generosity? Why would you feel regret? Neglecting generosity is not doing something wrong. Practicing generosity is doing something right. Right? So this is very, this is very clearly regret and remorse related to your direct actions. If you don't do anything good, that's not necessarily bad. It's just not good. You just won't develop, just won't get any benefit from that. Have you met such people? They're not really bad people, but they're not really good people either. They don't do anything overtly bad, but they're not really too energetic in doing anything good either. They're just kind of there. And don't forget also that karma is intentional action. It gets very in the weeds when we talk about inaction. It gets very complicated and nuanced. But I think here this is pretty clear. Let's see. I'm reading Karuna's stuff here just to check to see if this is actually questions or just comments. I've been reflecting on magical expectations recently. Have you investigated the magical thinking of your mind? So many aspects of mind where there's just magical thinking. Because of hearing a teaching that equated unexamined practice of things, even like Sila or Dana as Sila Bhatta Paramasa, unexamined practice of things. I don't know if I know what that means. You're doing something, but you're not reflecting on why you're doing it. What's the purpose of it? Maybe that's because when you're talking about Sila Bhatta Paramasa. The same teacher says metta is a band-aid if you haven't focused on uprooting defilements from their root. Like you can't just turn on a metta faucet and expect awakening if you haven't also turned on the dosa tap. So that's accurate. I remember maybe you've heard me tell this story, but for everybody else who hasn't, I'll tell the story of, when I was fairly new to Bhavana, it's like around 10 years ago. And this year is 10 years since I moved to the monastery. But, my metta was starting to fade, like the strong emotions, the strong, powerful feelings of metta was starting to fade. And I remember I brought Bhante G one of like his evening drink or whatever. And I asked him this question, and he said, until you would understand anicca deeply, your metta will only be skin deep. And that was kind of like a shock, like a spark. that all these years later, I realized this is actually the case for compassion as well, right? This is the case for goodwill and compassion. These things, true Buddhist goodwill and compassion, are not emotional. They don't come from emotion. They come from wisdom. They come from insight. You really, truly can't have real metta for all beings without the insight and the realization of what that actually means. Why you would have goodwill for all beings. No, I mean, you can, you practice it over and over and over again, and you build that up, and there's just a level of it. But when you really start to see the world, see samsara through the eyes of, a Buddha, if you see it through a more wise and insightful thing, then metta and true Buddhist compassion, all that stuff comes very easily. You don't even have to struggle with it. You don't have to fight with it. You don't have to repeat a bunch of words over and over again. It's the depth of that arises out of your seeing things as they are, understanding the nature of reality as it is. These things arise naturally. So in that way, I think metta in the gross level of metta is, yes, a band-aid. I think that's a decent way of putting it, I guess I would say. I wouldn't put it that way, but the point is, I think, is saying like it's limited without wisdom and insight. Sorry, there's a question. I don't know what it is. Well, I guess I responded anyway. Maybe I answered the question. Very good, Rick. I'm glad to have been some little help. I recently had a long, intense kilesa struggle. I tried everything in the Vitakka Santana Sutta. That's the removal of distracting thoughts, Majjhima Nikaya number 20, and I was still mad. Yeah, sometimes that happens. That's okay. The last one, of course, is crushing mind with mind. But again, I would only suggest that if you were about to like kill somebody or something like that. Fall back to Majjhima Nikaya number 19. Right? Observing that this is an unskillful mind state and practicing letting it go. And if you can't let it go, at least you can keep reflecting and observing this is an unskillful mind state. I am currently powerless to do anything about it because it's so strong. So I can at least be mindful. I can at least observe, investigate, and keep reflecting that this is unskillful and I want to abandon this. Unexamined practice, like thinking like Sila or Dana, will automatically lead to awakening without putting conditions in place for awakening. Well, I mean, from the sutta, technically, if you practice just Sila and Dana, it will automatically lead to awakening, just not in this lifetime. But if you practice, 100 lifetimes of Sila and Dana, eventually the wisdom from that will arise in the desire to practice deeper Dana. Deeper Dhamma, and you will want to do your meditation and satipatthana and anapanasati. Like, it's maybe not in the same lifetime, but that will. You just see in the sutta that we just read, right? How the freedom from remorse leads to this, leads to that, leads to that, leads to samadhi, leads to awakening. But I think Sila Bhatta Paramasa, we should understand it's important. Like this is the belief that if I just bathe 3 times a day, or I do 108 bows, or I do whatever, that in and of themselves will bring me to awakening. Right? That's what Sila Bhatta Paramasa, the fetter of that. That's what that means. Right? Because again, you think about the culture and the time of the Buddha when he's dealing with all these samanas, and some of them think that if I act like a dog do the ascetics, I'll become awakened, or if I just walk around naked, or if I bathe 3 times a day, or if I do this, or I do that, or do that. The Buddha says these do not bring you to awakening. And that's what Sila Bhatta Paramasa is. Dana and Sila is not Sila Bhatta Paramasa. Gregory says, I had a mental proliferation for several hours recently because I was bored. I had to keep reminding myself that it was unhelpful, but my thoughts had a mind of their own. Yeah. Eventually, they stopped by on its own. Yes. It fulfilled its course. You didn't give it any energy. You didn't give it any momentum, right? You just let it be, and it went on its own. It arose and it ceased. And if you didn't get any momentum, the next time it comes back, it'll be weaker. That's how you understand dependent origination and use it for awakening. Slowly weakening your unskillful mind states that arise, and slowly strengthening your skillful mind states that arise. All right. Well, I see I'm at the end of chat, and we're at 53. So unless I'll give the chat a minute or two to see if anything pops up because of delay. But if nothing pops up, then I think we can do our meditation. All right. So why don't we do our meditation? Close your eyes, set your body up in whatever comfortable and stable position works for you. We'll start our mindful scan of the body, bringing our focus to our feet, paying attention to whatever feeling or sensation is arising in that part of the body. moving up through the ankles into the calves. Through the knees and into the thighs. Up through to the hips and pelvis. Moving up the spine through the abdomen and the chest. Up through to the shoulders, checking they're hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. And then down through to the elbows and hands. Then up to the head, checking that the head is balanced. When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go. Take your 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. Remember, try not to manipulate or control the breath. Just observe and investigate it as the body is breathing in and out. We'll now practice metta for the rest of the session. We'll be doing two types of metta meditation for this session. Sending out metta in the 6 directions, and then radially out to all beings. In the sutta, the Buddha describes the practice of metta like this: one abides pervading 1/4 the mind imbued with goodwill, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above, below, and all around, one abides pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind of goodwill, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hatred or resentment. So I will be providing visuals and words for this practice. You're free to use them or not. For this practice, if you like, you can visualize a beam of light full of your goodwill and friendliness, moving out in each direction as we pass by, filling up all the quarters. So we'll start with the direction in front of us. Say the words. May all beings in my front direction find happiness. May they all find peace. May they live in friendship with each other. May they find release from suffering. Now, if you like, you can move the whole beam, or you can spread the beam out so that it's encompassing all around, like a radar screen going in circles. Shift the beam to your right direction. May all beings in my right direction find happiness. May they find peace. May they live in friendship with all beings. May they find release from suffering. Shift your beam of metta to behind you. May all beings in my back direction find happiness. May they find peace. May they live in friendship with each other. May they find release from suffering. Shift your beam to going out in your left direction. May all beings out your left direction find happiness. May all of them find peace. May all of them live in friendship with each other. May all of them find release from suffering. Shift your beam above you. May all beings in my above direction find happiness. May they all find peace. May they live in friendship with each other. May they all find release from suffering. Now shifting your beam below you. May all beings in the direction below me find happiness. May they find peace. May they live in friendship with each other. May they find release from suffering. Spend some time radiating your goodwill, friendliness, warm wishes to all beings all around, out into infinity, encompassing all beings in your sphere, your beam of light, of goodwill, of metta. Slowly open your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, your position in it, reflecting on the state of your mind before and after the meditation, and contemplating any experiences that stood out. Right? While you do that, we will read some Dhammapada, then close out, call it a night. The mind. Just as a fletcher straightens an arrow shaft, even so the discerning man straightens his mind, so fickle and unsteady, so difficult to guard. As a fish when pulled out of water and cast on land throbs and quivers, even so is this mind agitated. Hence should one abandon the realm of Mara. Wonderful it is indeed to subdue the mind, so difficult to subdue, ever swift, and seizing whatever it desires. A tamed mind brings happiness. Let the discerning man guard the mind, so difficult to detect and extremely subtle, seizing whatever it desires. A guarded mind brings happiness. Dwelling in the cave, the mind without form wanders far and alone. Those who subdue this mind are liberated from the bonds of Mara. Wisdom never becomes perfect in one whose mind is not steadfast, who knows not the good teaching, and whose faith wavers. There is no fear for an awakened one, whose mind is not sodden by lust nor afflicted by hate, and who has gone beyond both merit and demerit. Realizing that this body is as fragile as a clay pot, and fortifying this mind like a well-fortified city. Fight out Mara with the sword of wisdom, then guarding the conquest remain unattached. Ere long, alas, this body will lie upon the earth, unheeded and lifeless, like a useless log. Whatever harm an enemy may do to an enemy, or a hater to a hater, an ill-directed mind inflicts on oneself a greater harm. Neither mother, father, nor any other relative can do one greater good than one's own well-directed mind. All right, friends. Why don't we close out? So if you are joining for the first time, you can find out more about myself and Maggasekha, the organization I'm building, on the website, maggasekha.org. That is on the screen right now, maggasekha.org. That is my headquarters. Everything I do, it gets posted there, all kinds of notifications. When there's retreats, I have 3 retreats coming up in the next couple months. You can find out information about them there. Any streams, anything I do, including my travels, etc. I put on the website. You can find all the information, all the social media links, all the YouTube link, etc., all on there. So you can check out that website for more information and to keep in touch. So now we shall share the merits. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, sukha patta chane sukha, antu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha mehi sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata chabumata, deva naga mahedika, punyang tang anumoditva, chirang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, that comes to the end of another Dhammapalooza. Suki Hotu, may you be happy and at ease. Practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again, which could be tomorrow morning for a morning monastery experience, which has returned Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Or could be Insight Timer session Saturday at 3 o'clock on Insight Timer. Maybe Sunday night on the Discord with our sutta readings, or maybe next Monday for another Dhammapalooza. Have a good week.